see you, but I see your image on your screen image.
Okay. Okay. Everything seems to be okay. Let me just have a look to make sure everything's all right. Okay, hang on a minute. Just change something. Okay. My camera doesn't seem to want to do. Hang on.
That's okay.
There we go.
All right.
Now, that's great. Okay.
I wanted to thank you for taking time to speak with me today.
No, yeah, well, especially as it's your birthday.
Absolutely.
Have a good one,
hey,
sir.
How hard was it to get these songs picked out?
For this album, not difficult at all. Not difficult at all, because this is the second time we've recorded them.
Yeah.
So they were already there. You know, we just had to kind of make them better than they were 20 years ago. That's pretty much, that was the whole point of it. So if you're to look back, you'll see that this album was originally released in 1998.
Yes.
We weren't happy with it. And it's taken us 20 years to basically release the first album the way we wanted it to do it. So, yeah, it was, the songs were already there. So it was just a case of taking the time to get them right, you know. So that's what the whole point of the album was.
Yes, and it's a great sound indeed.
Thank you. We worked very hard on it. 4 years of it, in fact.
You guys have had a long career. What do you feel is the key to longevity in the business?
Breaking up and getting back together about 4 times. That's the only way to go. When you're not getting somewhere, you tend to kind of get very despondent. And you need to take time away from it to reassess whether you want to keep going. Sometimes that means the band is to break up for a while. And when you feel the burn coming back, then you talk to the guy and say, okay, let's have another go at it. And if the guys want to do it, then we go. If we'd have been continually going for 20 years, I guarantee you we'd be insane by now. Sometimes you just have to walk away and come back. It's really the only way to do it. When you're not getting the success, you need to kind of reassess and then come back when you feel like you want to have another try at it. So that's what we've been doing for 20 years. This is, I think, our 4th time trying now. So, and we'll probably have a 5th, but we'll see how this one goes for a while first.
How did it feel to redo the tracks?
Well, for me, it was kind of cathartic because they've been sitting with me for so long and thinking, you know, am I ever going to hear those songs the way I want to hear them? And then when I was just doing a few tests and they were starting to sound better than the original versions, I thought, okay, now I think we can finally do it. But of course, I had to get a new singer first before I could start. And I found John, and John came in and he put his own identity on them. So it was great doing it with somebody who wasn't there the first time to come in and give a fresh opinion and a fresh sound to it. So, yeah, it was very good. It just went on a bit longer than I really wanted it to. But that's what happens when you've got a pandemic going around the place.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And, you know, in some ways it hurt things. In some ways, you know, as far as creativity, some of the best albums have been released in the past couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been some pretty good ones. I heard the new Joe Lynn Turner album. I was astonished by that.
Yes.
That's a real change of pace for him. And good luck to him.
And I wanted to ask you, with the release of this, will you guys take to the road?
Sorry? Will we what?
With the release of this, will you guys take to the road now? Do some gigs?
We'd like to, but the problem is we need to fill out the lineup first. We need to get a drummer because it was myself who was doing the drums and I can't do everything on stage at once.
Right.
So we need to get a drummer sorted out. We need to get another guitar player, and the songs really could do with keyboards. So there's 3 of us. We need 3 more before we could do that. And we also need to get a booking agent because we're having terrible trouble trying to book gigs in Dublin.
Really?
Yeah. It's there's something going on where you try and book a gig and they promise to get back to you and you never hear from them again. And then you chase them up and they just never seem to return calls. We've been trying to organise even one Dublin gig since February and we haven't managed to. People just
Wow.
do not seem to want to kind of give bands a chance unless they're guaranteed to bring in a crowd, which of course we're not going to, having been away for a while. But yeah, we'd like to get gigs going again. But until we actually have a few gigs lined up, we can't even put a proper gigging lineup together, because we can't guarantee them that those rehearsals are going to lead to anything. So yeah, management is pretty much what we need before we can start thinking about that. But we definitely do want to gig again. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, with your experience in the field, if I was a new artist and I came to you, what advice would you give me?
Oh wow. Let me say, persevere, try everything, and believe in what you're doing, because you're going to get knockbacks, you're going to get bad times, you're going to get empty gigs. Just keep going, and eventually it just takes one person to hear your stuff, and that's the one person that'll make all the difference. So really, just kind of keep believing is what I'd say.
And throughout your career, what would you say has been your proudest moment so far?
Going to Greece, where we'd never played before. We played in Greece at a festival called Up the Hammers. We were invited over there by the organizer, and I don't think we'd ever, spoken to anyone else in Greece before. But we got up and played, and I could hear the crowd were singing our melodies back at us. And this is somewhere that we'd only set foot in the country 24 hours beforehand and had never been there before as a band. But to hear your own songs sung back up at you while you're playing them, I got absolute goose pimples. And that kind of made it all worthwhile for me. It's not about sales. It's about kind of writing songs that kind of stay with people. And that was my proudest moment in this band.
And as far as your journey, when did your musical journey begin? At what age?
With me, 4 years old.
Wow.
My brother bought an album called Machine Head by Deep Purple. And I was 4 years old when he bought it. And as soon as he put it on, that was it. I actually kind of stole the record from him a few times. And that was it. That was me hooked. That was my musical taste. And a few years later, I started playing the guitar. So it was pretty much while I was still in short trousers that I knew I wanted to do music.
I wanted to ask you also, with picking up the guitar and that, was you self-taught or did you take lessons?
I got 3 or 4 lessons to start off. And then the guy who was teaching me told me not to come back, which was pretty much his way of saying, I can't teach you anything. You're actually going faster than I can teach you. So he started me off on how to hold the guitar. And after that, he said, that's it. You need to kind of go and teach yourself. And that's pretty much the way it was. Then I taught myself how to play keyboards. And my girlfriend has bought me a drum kit for Christmas. So that'll keep me going in there. So yeah, I basically teach everything myself. I have a good musical ear. And that's a good basis to start in any instrument, really.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, what would you feel if you was to go over this first album again and go through it? What would you say is your most challenging track for you?
Musically? Oh, that's got to be the title track. The title track is 13 minutes long.
Yeah.
That was a song that was written. I think I wrote it over the space of 4 months. The music took me 4 months to write. And when I gave it to Slim, the bass player, he wrote the lyrics in 45 minutes. So that's great for him. But the music is extremely challenging to do. And I don't think I'll ever write something like it again. It was very hard to do, but it came together quite well. But yeah, that would be definitely my proudest moment on that album.
And were these tracks done in a studio or in a home studio?
The original version of it was done in a studio. This version was done in right where I'm sitting, actually.
Wow.
In my living room. Actually, about 5 feet behind me on the couch, playing my guitar, doing the bass and the keyboards and everything was all done right here. The vocals was was the only exception to that. They were done in a large warehouse. Ooh, what happened there? They were done in a large warehouse where the singer just needed somewhere where he could actually open up, because I live in an apartment, so he couldn't do it here, so we had to find somewhere else, and we found a work depot, and that was all we needed. No acoustic treatment, nothing. Basically, he went into a cloakroom, closed the door, and I plugged him into the computer, and that's the result I got out of it. So it's really all about the resources you have to hand, you use. And for this album, it was about trying not to have too much money going out in studio fees. And that's what we achieved. And we got better results than we got the first time around. Technology is wonderful.
Yeah, it's amazing now what can be done.
Oh, it's brilliant, yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, as far as merchandising for the band and stuff like that, what's the best way to go about getting that?
Well, we just set up a new merchandising website, which is linking off the main homepage, and that was only set up about a month ago. But the quality, I believe, is very, very good. For an online shop, it's CelticLegacyMerch.com, I think is the... One second, I'll just double check that. Celtic, I haven't looked at it for a while. There you go. CelticLegacyMerch.com. That's it.
Okay.
And we've everything from t-shirts to mugs to posters, everything up there. And I'm adding new stuff all the time. So
will there be a CD version and a vinyl version, or just a CD version?
Oh, it's just a CD version. We'd actually have to chop some tracks off this to fit it onto vinyl, and it would either be that option, or we'd have to release a double album of 3 sides and then try and pad the 4th side out with something else, which I feel kind of would diminish the quality of the album, by just padding it out with demos or or things. We would love to do a vinyl version of something, but the cost is prohibitive per unit. Maybe we might do some sort of compilation album a few years down the road and put that on vinyl. But yeah, I would love to see that big Celtic Legacy logo on a 12-inch album, definitely.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And as far as the artwork and the artist involved on this cover, who did the artwork? Wow.
That was me again. I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to this band, because I'm actually trying to play down the amount of things I've been doing, because I don't want to get the impression that the other guys aren't doing anything, because they are. But it's a case of, again, resources. I'm a graphic designer by trade. That's my job.
Oh, wow.
So I'm the obvious person to do the artwork. And I've done the artwork for all the albums over the years, and all the posters and the website and all that. So we weren't actually going to do much artwork this time, because it wasn't going to be on CD. It was just going to be a digital version. But when it became clear that there was going to be a CD, then of course you need to have the artwork to go along with it. So I sat down and I rattled the artwork off very quickly, because I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. So now we have a very nice 24-page booklet to go with the CD version of it, which is very good.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, what can fans look for next? Will there be a video or another single release or anything like that?
We're actually working on a new album already.
Wow.
We had about 3 or 4 songs which we wanted to work on, and now that this one is out, we want to try and speed up the output between the albums, because there was generally 5 years between each album at least.
Sure.
Because we always had lineup changes between albums. So this time it's not changing. We had about 3 or 4 songs, so we said, well, let's just kind of get working on the next album now, so we can try and get it out within the next 18 months. So it may not be next year, but certainly we're going to be looking to early 2024, I would say, to actually have the next album out. And this will be a brand new album, no more kind of redoing old songs. I was actually working on one of the new songs today, and I just got about a minute of it done. So that's 1 minute of the album completed anyway, so that's a start.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how did you pick up working with home studio stuff? How'd you pick it up? Did you just
Taught
become
myself.
natural?
Yeah, I
Wow.
just taught myself. I had done some studio engineering before, but I was never great at a mixing desk. There's too many buttons, too many leads to plug in here and there, and because I'm working with computers as part of my day job anyway, it's just a natural thing to kind of look at the um, the the recording software. And over the course of about 5 or 6 years, I just started practicing doing demos. I've recorded, I think, 50 versions of various songs over the time, and that guitar sound doesn't sound quite right. I'll actually change that. And you get closer and closer as you go along, and you learn new things. But eventually, it got to the point. I was actually working on this Redux album for a year before we actually started recording properly, because I was actually testing out sounds and demos and plugins and everything else like that. So over the course of the years, I just taught myself. That's pretty much the only way that you can do it. You can look at tutorials online, but there's no substitute for actual hands-on experience, really.
Right. I wanted to also ask you, with these new songs, can you give me an idea of the feel of it?
Not yet. No. We have two completely written songs, which were written by John and Slim. They had them written before we actually met up as a band. So, but their songs lend themselves to the style that the band does. So it's just a case of adapting them slightly to sound like this band rather than their own song kind of things. And there's another one I was working on today, which sounds very much like a good Celtic Legacy song. At least it will when it's finished. But at the moment, the songs are pretty much at the earliest stage that they can possibly be. So they're going to go through quite a few changes before they finish. But I think we're looking at a good album again, from what I can hear so far. We have about 6 riffs to even just start on, and that's it, just 15-second riffs. So we've got plenty of springboards to work on, and it would be nice to be in the situation where we're actually not just scrambling to fill an album, but to actually kind of just pick the best tracks. And hopefully that's where we'll be this time.
I also wanted to ask you, as far as with getting a new one out quick, relatively in half the time you've been, do you feel that this lineup is one that's gonna stay?
I hope so. I hope so. You never say never, but myself and the bass player have been in this from the start, and there's only one album that we didn't do together, but he's here to stay. I can't see John going anywhere. We're certainly not going to be telling him to leave, so it's just a case of John stays as long as John stays, and I hope that'll be for a long time, because he was a fan of this band before he joined. So now that he's in the band, I'd like to kind of see him stick around. But he's also in another band called Old Season. So he's got 2 bands that he's juggling. And for him, it'll probably be a case of which one gets the tour before the other one is where he'll stay. But I think I kind of know enough about John now to know that, John would want to stick around for as long as possible. This is his kind of music. So he's very, very happy to be in both bands. And we're quite happy to kind of juggle the singer between 2 bands. That's okay.
And you're in Ireland, correct?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, have you seen Phil Lynot's statue?
That's funny you should mention that. We actually helped to kind of pay for it in a small way. Our second album came out in 2003, and the statue was being put forward to the politicians here. And on our second album, we donated 20% of all sales to the statue to get it made. So there's a little bit of that statue that was paid for fans of this band in there, and we were also invited to the unveiling of the statue by Phil. So yeah, this band and Phil Lynott have a good history, although None of us have ever met him while he was alive. But yeah, we were actually in the pub 2 weeks ago where the statue is, outside, and of course we gave him away before we walked in, you know. So yeah, we're well aware of Philo and the statue out there.
Yeah. I remember the first time I heard that band, and they just, everything they ever did was just fantastic to me.
First band I ever saw live was Thin Lizzy.
Did you see them as a 3-piece or
No,
later on?
I'm not that old. Give me a break.
See, I'm that old.
No. I saw them on the Thunder and Lightning tour. It was the first gig I was ever at, and I was a very young kid, so I was a bit intimidated. But once I saw that show, that was okay. That's what you want to do. Oh yeah, brilliant. Yeah. And this is Lizzy. I mean, they weren't at their best in '83. I think the sort of 76 to 79 era is the best time for Lizzy with Robbo and Gary Moore. But at this stage, I think they knew that their popularity was sort of slipping a little bit, and that's why they sort of broke up. So I would have loved to have seen them in '78. That would have been amazing to see, but I know, I was just a child.
And '79, I remember them coming to Cleveland in my area, and they're on the Monsters of Rock tour, and they stole the show.
Was that with Gary Moore?
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing guitar player, Gary Moore. Another one that kind of went too soon as well, but that's unfortunate. There was a song on our last album actually called Emerald Eye, which was dedicated and written about Gary Moore as well. So we've done a song for Gary Moore, and we've done a song for Phil Lynott. So that's not too bad.
No, not at all. And lastly, I wanted to ask you, if you could give any message to your fans, what would that message be?
Buy the albums.
Absolutely.
That's the only message. We're finding that we're getting a lot of promotional push online now over the last 2 months. There's a good few reviews appearing, and there's quite a few interviews happening. Thank you very much, by the way. And there's a lot of interest, but nobody is actually buying the albums. It's very strange. That's where I feel the internet has kind of let people down. There's way too much content up there that can let people have things for nothing. So people can listen to the stuff, yeah, but they don't want to buy it, which is unfortunate. But hopefully we'll get a snowball effect. But yes, please, folks, please support the band by buying the albums.
Support all bands. Go to the shows, buy the albums, get the merchandise. That's how you support your bands.
That's it.
Yeah.
And with that sort of financing coming in, which is our only means of financing, that's where we can hire venues for gigs and try and get some potential tour support. We sort of have to finance it ourselves because we don't have management, we don't have a record label backing, we've no finance except what we make from the albums.
Mm-hmm.
So please buy the albums. Give us a break. But, you know.
Absolutely. And this is a fantastic album.
Thank you. We worked very, very hard on it. And we worked very hard on the next one too.
Yeah, I've been listening to I'd say most of the day. So good. And there's a couple other ones, New Queensryche, that I've been very interested in. I've been listening to quite a bit. There's a lot of good stuff out there, but I keep going back to this one.
Well, that's okay with us. Yeah, that's okay with us. I've no problem with that. I've been listening to it for 4 years and I'm still not bored with it.
Right.
Actually, if you want to be pedantic, I've been listening to it for 24 years and I'm still not bored with it.
Well, I wanted to thank you for speaking with me. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking.
Absolute pleasure.
And you have a great rest of your day, my friend.
And you have a great rest of your birthday, sir.
Thank you. Cheers.
All the best. See ya.
See ya.
Bye now.